Java audio using OpenAI's text-to-speech service, 1K versus 1000, Pop-Tart Bowl memes, and the usual collection of silly tweets, toots, and skeets, plus a couple of bonus features. Welcome to Tales from the Jar Side. The subtitle this week is "My wife told me I've grown as a person." Actually, she said, "You've gotten fat," but I knew what she meant. And no, she didn't actually say that. Wait, that needs my rim shot here. And there we go. Well, welcome everybody to the new year. This is the Tales from the Jar Side newsletter, the video version. The goal of this channel is to not only teach you about the latest features in the Java ecosystem, but also to show you where they help and why you might want to use them. Let's move on. So the title, of course, I just mentioned to you, and it says, "Welcome to Tales from the Jar Side, the Cousin IT newsletter for the week of December 24th through 31st, 2023. Today, in fact, is January 1st of 2024. So happy holidays, happy new year, whatever you happen to celebrate. Glad to have you aboard. My name is Ken Cousin, and this is my weekly newsletter. So here's the regular info message. The one that matters to us is that regular readers of and listeners to, and of course video viewers of this newsletter are affectionately known as jarheads and are far more intelligent, sophisticated, and attractive than the average newsletter reader or viewer or listener. If you wish to become a jarhead, please subscribe using the supplied button. That's our cue to take a look at the YouTube channel. Let me jump over there. And you can see here that we are up to 1.03 subscribers. It's funny how it's rounding it off at 2 decimal places this time. I think I actually have like 1,034 or something like that. It's the actual number. And the new video this week, the one that I do want to talk to you about, is this one called Easy Java Audio with OpenAI. And it's all about text-to-speech. So that's the interesting one. Let me go right back to the newsletter and I'll give you a little bit of information about that. So there it is, a little bit bigger in form there. That, I don't know about that thumbnail. It seems a little busy to me. But the basic idea that that's supposed to conjure in your head is Cyrano de Bergerac, if you will, the classic play where the idea is that Cyrano is, well, in this case, typing into a laptop, and the words are coming out of robot Christian's mouth as he speaks to the, sending love letters to the charming Roxanne, you know. Feel free to adjust that however you like. I don't know that quite worked either, but what are you going to use text-to-speech for anyway? And this is one thing I suppose you could use it for. Now, the nice thing about this particular service is it's among the easiest to use. It's pretty much about the easiest thing they provide you. All you have to do is say, here's the text, here's the model I'd like you to use, and here's the voice I want you to use, and you get back an MP3 file almost immediately. It's really nice that way. The API documentation basically shows an example of a curl request here. You see that there's an endpoint specifically called audio/speech. You put in your authorization header, you tell the service that you're submitting JSON data, and you see here in the body, you've got a JSON object with a model, an input, and a voice. The voice is one of a selection of 6 that are provided. You can't add your own, you can't change any of these. The input is the text you want it to read, and the model is either TTS1 or TTS1 HD. Now, HD sounds good, like, you know, high definition. It does sound a bit different, but not radically different. It's not a huge difference. Although if you look at the pricing here, the TTS model costs about $0.015 per 1,000 characters. That's US, $0.015 US. And the high def one is double that. It's 3 cents per 1,000 characters. To give you some perspective, the tests I'm going to run all use less than 100 characters. So it's going to be far less than a penny either way. This newsletter this week came out to roughly 10,000 characters overall, a couple thousand words, about 10,000 characters. So it would probably cost me, I don't know, around 30 cents, I suppose, if I wanted to have the MP3 file generated from that. So here are the 6 voices that are available: Alloy, Echo, Fable, Onyx, Nova, and Shimmer. This is the actual guide page over here on the text-to-speech part. And if I scroll down, you can see the voice options they leave in. I don't know how well this is going to come through on the video, so if it doesn't come through, I'll just cut it. But let's hear what Alloy sounds like for a moment.
And sets in the West. This simple fact has been observed by humans for thousands of years.
Something like that. And Fable here.
The library is a quiet and peaceful place where people go to read, study, and learn. The shelves are filled with books on every subject imaginable.
So you get the idea. And you see that the only ones available are the ones there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now there are a couple of optional parameters you can send as well. So if I look at the API reference, you see the 3 properties that we just went through are all required, but there are 2 others that are optional. One is to state what type of audio file you want back. The default is MP3, but there are options for Opus, AAC, and FLAC, if you like. And then the other final option is one for speed. You give it a number between 0.25 and 4, and that's how fast it will read back your text. I tried an example. It didn't really seem to be all that useful to me, but you may like to try it out. But notice the return. The return doesn't get back JSON data. It just says the audio file content. Now, normally with a RESTful web service, you then have to specify as well, in addition to the content type header where you say you're passing in JSON, you'd have to specify an accept header to say what you want back. In this case, it just says you return the audio file. So you don't even have to say anything. So there's a couple things, because that's going to be so straightforward, there's a couple of additions I added to this. One is I did a little bit of input validation. I'm going to show you the record that I put together for the request. And I added some validation myself, which let me use a feature of records that I don't normally use, what they call a compact canonical constructor. And again, it's there just so you can do some input validation. And finally, I wanted my MP3 file not just to be stored, I can do that, but I actually wanted it to play. I wanted to have that option where I could play it from my Java system. And that turned out to be a bigger challenge than I expected. I kept using things from Java FX, like the media player or the audio clip, and I could get them to play part of it, but it would always cut out or wouldn't complete. If I put a sleep in my test, then it would generally go to the end, but sometimes it wouldn't play at all. And I had all kinds of problems. And what I eventually wound up with is, I'll just show you right here. This library is known as JLayer. It's old. I mean, it comes back from the old Java Zoom days from 1999 to 2008. And while they have updated it, the latest version 1.0.2 is from October of 2022, so a little over a year ago. Still, it's mature, it's solid. Believe it or not, it worked without a problem at all. So let me give you an idea what the code looks like, just to give you a sense of it. So here is my TTS request, text-to-speech request. There's the model, the input, the voice, a response format, and a double speed. Now, voice and response format, I did validation by creating enums for those. So here's my voice enum. I have all the capital letter versions here and the lowercase ones there. I put in @serialized_name as the Google annotation, the JSON one that will convert the name to lowercase. I could have tried to automate that, but it was just as easy just to put them in there. I also have a little fun method here to grab a random voice in case I don't care which voice I get back. The response format, again, I put in those 4 names, the ones they listed, and now those are type safe and hard-coded and everything. Back to the TTS request here, I also put in the serialized name annotation here to make sure that the snake case was converted to camel case automatically. Now, this compact canonical constructor is the constructor here that doesn't have parens on it. And that's here so I can validate the model, the input, and the speed. And I put in these private methods down here to validate the input, the model, and the speed this way. So speed has to be between 0.25 and 4. The model has to be one of those 2, and I set those up as constants. And the input can't be null, can't be blank, and has to be less than or equal to 4,096 characters. Oh, that's an interesting point. I hadn't even thought about that. So my newsletter came out to be about 10,000 characters. I just realized it would not fit. I would have to break that up actually into multiple slices in order to send that in. I mean, that's not exactly difficult to do with text. You could always find a space or a paragraph separation where you could do an actual divide, but it didn't occur to me until now, actually, that the length there is not really all that long. Okay, now looking at the actual text-to-speech class, here's the endpoint. There's my mechanism for getting the API key. I just get that as an environment variable. There's my constants for the service that I want. And I'm just using a regular old HTTP client. My next video, by the way, the one I'm hoping to get to in the coming week, will do the same stuff with Spring, and then I'll be using JSON and HTTP exchange interfaces and all that. But right here, I just used a regular HTTP client. So I take my request and turn it into a string, using the parser there, JSON, to serialize it. And with my request, I set up the URL, pass in the couple headers, put the body in the post, and I'm basically all set. I mean, I can say send. Now, what's a little different here than on the other ones is my body handler that I'm using is the one called of_byte_array, which returns an array of bytes, actually. So that's different here. My HTTP response is not of type string anymore. It's of type byte array. I save it to a file. I put it in a particular directory in this project, source, main, resources, audio, just to put it somewhere. And then I also grab the headers and log those as well, just so you can see what comes back. And that's it. The only other interesting part about this is here when I submit a file name to play the file, or down here when I combine both of those use that player that I was telling you about, the player, which comes from Java Zoom, from JLayer. That player class, you just instantiate it with an input stream and call play, and you're done. There's some exception handling you need, but that's all. So in the one where I submit the file name, I get the resource as a stream and wrap it in a buffered output stream, and then we're ready to go. In the one where I'm going to generate it, then of course I get back a byte array. So I wrap a byte array input stream around that, wrap it in a buffered input stream, and then again, I'm ready to go, and we're all set. So looking at one of the tests here, the test they wanted me to run is this quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, and I did that with TTS1, and then here I did it at double speed, and then I tried a bigger one here, the YouTube channel, etc., using a text block, because why not? I thought I'd have some fun and replace the carriage returns with a single space. I mean, I didn't really need to do any of that, but didn't hurt anything either. And just a couple tests to show I could run it. This is actual quote from the play Cyrano de Bergerac. To give you an idea what this sounds like, back in the newsletter, there's the text, and here I'll hit the embedded audio.
The YouTube channel, Tales from the Jar Side, is your best source for learning about Java, Spring, and other open source technologies, especially when combined with AI tools. The companion newsletter is also a lot of fun.
At least I hope it's a lot of fun. Anyway, so that's the audio. Now, if that didn't come in the recording, I'll fix it by actually inputting the file itself. If you're interested in any more details, it's all in the video. Feel free to take a look. But that's all there is to it. Now I'm going to go into Spring next and use that. And once that's done, then it's time to shift gears and start digging into the Spring AI project. I think they are pretty much ready to release Spring AI 1.0, and then it's time to start working with that. Let's move to the next section. Okay, this one I had to talk about. I had trouble explaining to my wife, as it says here, that, yeah, I was looking forward to hitting the 1,000 subscriber level, but 1,000, I really wanted 1,024 so I could say I had 1K subscribers, because if you're in IT, you know that 1K isn't 1,000, it's 1024. It's the first binary above 1,000. So fortunately, a couple days after that, I did hit 1024. As I say now, I think I'm at about 1030 something, but still, I mean, that number mattered to me. And it's very silly. And again, for the handful of people who watch this or are not IT people, just as a reminder, 1K is 2 to the 10th, which is 1024. 1 meg is 2 to the 20th. So that's 1024K, if you will. So that's a little over 1 million. And then 1 gig, if you will, is 2 to the 30th. So that's the first binary over a billion, and 1 terabyte is 2 to the 40th, etc. So for what it's worth, it's something I deal with all the time, so I can't just let it go. But there it is. So the more you know. How about that? Now, as long as I was showing off, I got a little notification that my historical total views on the channel broke a barrier. I hit 20,000 views on the channel, and hey, cool. That's great. I mean, it doesn't really represent any milestone in terms of joining the partner program or anything like that, but it's better to have that than not. But of course, now I need to wait until I hit 20,480 so I could say I have 20K. So yeah, I mean, that's sad. I apologize. Let's move on. Oh, since this was the time of year when people post memories, somebody posted this old picture. I think I can magnify that a little bit. Yeah, this is a picture of my old dorm as an undergraduate. In fact, this was the end of my freshman year at MIT. Desmond House, Newhouse 5, or what we call, named after Thomas C. Desmond, 09. And when we say 09, we mean 1909, not 2009. And I don't think you'd have any chance at all of finding me in this picture if I didn't give you some help. I mean, the hair lengths are, early 80s. Yeah, that figures. I did say I was the nerd in the t-shirt, figuring that's not going to help either. In fact, believe it or not, I'm up here in the corner there. I don't think I can click on anything, but I'll magnify it in the video. You can see that I had a bit more hair back then. So just in case you'd find that amusing, I thought I'd throw it in. Okay. A meme hit this week. Now, there were several topics I was considering including. There was a fun chess-related thing that I didn't talk about with a draw that made the organizers of the tournament so angry they gave both people 0. So I was going to include that. Maybe I'll include it next week. But what happened that got everybody's attention on social media is the first inaugural Pop-Tarts Bowl. College football. I don't watch college football. It's not that I have anything against the players. In fact, it's partly because I feel that I don't want to watch people being taken advantage of so horribly. College football is staggering in its level of corruption. Not that it's corrupt in general, because obviously it is, but just the very concept of these schools making millions of dollars off of unpaid labor just rubs me the wrong way. And if they get injured or anything, they're just tossed aside like they're nothing. I just find the whole thing appalling. Now, they have this new system, this name, image, likeness mechanism, where the really well-known players, the ones who can build up a reputation, can get sponsorship deals and make money. That, to me, again, is the worst of all possible worlds, because the ones who are going to make money can now make it early, but the ones who need the money in order to survive, in order to make it through school, are not going to get anything. Again, it's the rich getting richer. So that bothered me. Plus, when I was between the ages of about 12 and when I moved away to college, or when I went away to college, I lived in southern Pennsylvania. And our team, of course, was Penn State. And Penn State had a coach named Joe Paterno, who was a legend. He was just a living legend there, and was the platonic ideal of what a coach should be. He was a good guy. He treated his players well. He graduated lots of players. Everything about the guy seemed wonderful until you found out that he had a coach on staff named Jerry Sandusky. I put the link to the Wikipedia page, who was literally molesting players for decades. And Joe didn't want to hear about it, didn't want to know. He just turned a blind eye to the whole thing. There's some question as to whether he ever knew. If he didn't know, he didn't want to know, because people did tell him, and he just didn't believe, didn't want to hear it. And that's just so horrible. I mean, it went on for years, and these are kids, and they were helpless, and they were taken advantage of. And I honestly don't think Penn State should ever have been allowed to play another football game ever. I mean, that's children for decades. I'm sorry, it bothers me. Anyway, something came up in college football, and I don't normally pay attention to college football. As I say, again, other more practical things. The top teams are selected by a poll, and the poll is strongly influenced by money, by who's going to draw a bigger audience to a bowl game, and just corruption all the way down. But Twitter went nuts. And I still kind of pay attention to Twitter because there's people I follow that I still want to hear about there. I don't post there other than the newsletter, but still. And what happened was the inaugural Pop-Tarts Bowl, which featured a mascot that looked like a Pop-Tart. A giant Pop-Tart pastry, toaster pastry, if you will. And they even showed this thing at the end of the game descend into a giant toaster with that strange sign saying dreams really do come true when you knew it was going to get eaten. And then whoever was inside that supposedly got ejected, because then the Pop-Tart comes out the other end and they devoured it on camera. And it was truly horrible. Now, some of the jokes were great. Like, I'm sorry, did they just sacrifice a human-sized Pop-Tart on live TV, or was that a fever dream? Or modern society is so divorced from our food sources that most people who eat Pop-Tarts have never actually killed one themselves. I thought that was good. Of course, the religious one, this is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Yeah, that's going to offend somebody. And honestly, I never want to watch another game in which the mascot is not devoured by the winning team. All sport has become meaningless after the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I mean, I put a link in here, which kind of says it all. The Pop-Tarts Bowl is truly the most unhinged American thing I've ever seen, and the internet can't get enough. And yeah, there were a lot of memes there, and this one showing, Pop-Tart edible mascot from 2023 to 2023. I just figured, yeah, that's so 2023, isn't it? I'll finish with this conversation I had with my wife. She said, so who won the game? And I said, well, it doesn't matter. I think Kansas State. But what I thought of later, of course, was, oh, we all did, dear. We all did. Oh, my. And, 2024, I'm sure it'll all be better now. Yeah, as we head into an election year. Heaven help us. Let's move to the tweets, Toots, and Skeets. Hey, did you know there's a Dad Jokes Clearinghouse? Neither did I. Here's the link to it. Let me open that up in another tab. So the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse. So this is at fatherhood.gov/4-dad/dad-jokes. And it brings up a joke. It says, do you know what the loudest pet is? And then you have to click on this. A trumpet. Okay, try another one. I couldn't figure out the seatbelts in my new car, but then it clicked. Yeah, that one at least was worthy of a rim shot. And the funniest part, of course, is that you can actually submit your own, although they do have submission terms, and apparently somebody will go through it. But oh my goodness, hey, there's a clearinghouse now. An official government site has a clearinghouse of dad jokes. Who knew? Now you do. Why did the pizza cutter get a speeding ticket? Because he was rounding the corner too fast. Let's move on. I thought this actually was a serious one. This was a clever insight. Daniel Dvorkin, it's Medigoth at qoto.org. One common feature of various anti-science ideologies is that their adherents lack a sense of scale. Flat earthers don't understand distance, like how much the earth curves, and how big the earth is and how little curvature you get over a certain amount of distance. Creationists don't understand time, geological eras. Climate change denialists don't understand levels of emissions or rate of temperature change. Anti-vaxxers don't understand population morbidity and mortality rates. Probably other types of looniness with which I'm less familiar have the same underlying problem. In a way, I sympathize with this because the numbers are so far outside normal human experience. But learn the math and suddenly everything makes a lot more sense. We're not talking about anything particularly advanced. Just grasp that intuition breaks down when measuring something very large or very small. The one that occurred to me, of course, is money. That we have no sense of how much $1 billion really is. And for people who are known as, and here's a link to a Wikipedia page on them, centibillionaires, people like Elon or Zuckerberg or Bezos, that have $100 billion or more, we just have no conception of what that number means. I've seen various videos try to give a sense of it, and it's good. But more people need to be exposed to that to realize how much they are hoarding. It's just staggering, the amount of money there. But I thought that was a very clever observation. This was clever. A whole bunch of network IDs that apparently were visible inside the British Library. The tweet says, someone at the British Library is doing fine work. So we have things like Abraham Links This, or Drop It Like It's Hot Spot, or let's see, I Believe Why Can Fi, Martin Router King, Mum, click here for internet. Yeah, I've heard that one before. No More Mr. Wi-Fi, Titanic Sinking, yeah. Wham Bam, Thank You Lan, Why Fight the Feeling. Yeah, those are some good ones. I mean, there'd be people that make up jokes like that for years and years, but those are some good ones. This is a cartoon, looks like a New Yorker cartoon. It says a bunch of monkeys in a room with typewriters. No Shakespeare yet, but here's another copy of Art of the Deal. Yeah, again, an old gag. It reminded me of one that I tend to repeat whenever I finish a book. It's me. What'd you think of my book? And it's like, you know how a million monkeys on a million typewriters will eventually write the books of Shakespeare? Yeah, so your book, 3 books, 3 monkeys, 2 days. Here I went and messed up the gag. I'm going to give it a rim shot anyway. 3 monkeys, 2 days. Right. Sorry. Now that brought up something that I found mildly annoying, because professional jealousy is a thing. I mean, again, it's all in how you react, right? I mean, I'm happy for the people who write books. I really am. But I worked really hard on my Makito book, and it came out in February, and the Pragmatic Programmers had their annual countdown of their top 10 best-selling books of 2023, and Makito made clear it wasn't anywhere on that list. I mean, I'm going to assume it was number 11, right? No, I don't know what it was. But, I mean, I was a little disappointed. I did do a whole series of Medium posts about it. I recorded a whole YouTube playlist on it. I just kind of hoped it would do a little better than that. I took one of their posts and I put it in Canva and I edited it myself and made my book number 0. But I couldn't bring myself to actually post that, because I'm afraid the image, what I didn't want to do was conjure the impression that I had anything against the people who were on the top 10 list. No, more power to them. I'm really glad they did well. I was just making a gag out of it and was feeling like, hey, I feel a little left out here, and I can make my own joke related. But I decided it was too close to coming across as bitter rather than funny, so I just share it with all of you. But I didn't actually post it or anything like that. I am going to send it to my editor because I think she'll laugh. She may worry that I'm really unhappy about it, but no, of course I'm not unhappy about it. I mean, I'm mildly unhappy about it. I would have liked to have done better, but I didn't write it because I expected it to sell well. I wrote the book because I was teaching so many Makito classes, and too many people were coming into the class and not understanding what Makito was for. Why do we have a tool like this? What do we do with it? And again, that's kind of what I'm all about. It's not just the details of how to use it. I want to say why. Why are we using this? Where does it help? Where does it not help? I mean, you don't always use it. You don't mock things you don't own, for example. And I'd written all these, all this stuff and made all these videos. I was hoping that it would do a little bit better. Oh, well, it's not going to go out of date anytime soon. And if you do want it, by the way, be sure to use the coupon code KKMakito 35. KKMakito 35 will give you a 35% discount and off of a $10 ebook. So what the heck? If you want it, be my guest. Let's move on. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Somebody posted this, how other countries imagine Americans eat breakfast. And of course, you have our picture here of basically dominated by bacon and a handgun. There's an egg there. There's some toast and presumably coffee in a mug that has guns on it. It's kind of hard to argue with that. My comment was that, isn't that one of the Grand Slam breakfasts offered at Denny's? I don't know, but yeah, I could see how other countries might imagine that's how we have breakfast. Finishing up the Christmas memes, here was one that said the 3 wise men saying, just to be perfectly clear, these gifts are for your birthday and Christmas. Yeah, I know several people have birthdays right around the holidays, and that's their life, yep. Or this one said, Jesus Christ was originally going to be named Gary until Mary stubbed her toe. Jesus Christ, yeah, okay. Gary wouldn't have the same ring to it. Or this one, he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He's already cut the phone lines. There really is no escape. So you better not shout. You better not cry. Yeah, there's Santa keeping his eye out. I could see how that would be a problem too. That is the creepy part of Christmas. Not as creepy as that elf on the shelf thing. That's way creepier. I never got into that. I'm glad we didn't have that when I was a kid. But Santa, yeah, there's a certain, police state mentality there, which, surveillance state, I should say. That's a little much. And then the last one is, actually, I believe it's pronounced Christmas GIFs. Yeah, I'm not going to wade into that battle, the GIF versus GIF battle. I have to admit, I probably said it both ways. Whatever. So no classes this week. I did get that one video out. I hope to get out the spring-related audio video this week. And then it's on to Spring AI and some other topics as well. So thank you very much for listening. I'm really glad you're here, and I hope to see you in the next videos. Take care.
Hey there, it's time to tune in to Tales from the Jar, so let's begin. Java coming in spring, oh my. Groovy graphics, don't be shy. Tales from the Jar side, oh yeah. Crack open the code, let's take a ride. From design patterns to the latest trends, your weekly tech toast that never ends.